I love what we're doing here. Today was awesome, and I don't talk about that stuff. And really, to even talk about it right now would be so disrespectful to our players and how well they played today. So, you know, we got a lot of things going here, doing really well, and I love it here.
Lane Kiffin made a lot of people in Oxford uncomfortable with that answer on Saturday when asked point blank if he expected to be the Ole Miss coach next year. Neal McCready was there. Yeah, I think he actually asked the question just before that. He's with us now. Neal, always appreciate it. I know how it goes this time of year. Thank you for the time. How are you?
I'm good, Matt. Good to be with you.
Thank you. Okay, you were sitting there in that press conference. You cover this team. You cover this coach. Please describe what Saturday was like there in that post game.
Well, just for context, they had just beaten Florida to get to 10-1. Probably punched their ticket to the college football playoff a year after a really disappointing failure to make the same playoff. Record crowd at Vaught Hemingway, electric, probably the best atmosphere I've experienced there. I've been on the beat 18 years. Probably a couple of games that come close to that, but it was really they had it going. It was a weird press conference. Started weird, ended weird, stayed weird. I asked him, "Hey, do you think this punches your ticket to the playoffs?" And he just didn't even answer it. He kind of went off in a different world, and I was like, "Oh, this is going differently." And then Michael Katz, sitting next to me, asked that question that he just answered, and I think at that point, people like me who knew a lot of what was going on, in the background, knew that Florida was very real, knew that LSU was becoming very real. I think it raised flags, it raised antennas, and sure enough, I mean, it sort of took a lot of the steam out of that game. I think for a lot of Ole Miss fans, because they realized that this is a little bit more of a crisis maybe than they had thought, and here we are on Monday afternoon, some 48 hours after that game, not even 48 hours after that game, and Lane's family has been to Gainesville. It's now been to Baton Rouge, and there's a report that's out that we kind of hinted at this morning on our site and on our podcast about people using the word ultimatum. And I don't know if that's the right word. It's really close if it's not the right word. Ole Miss is going to demand an answer, and if they don't get the answer that they're looking for, I think they've got two decisions to make. One, they've got to start a search. Mm-hmm. They've already started it, but they've got to launch a search, like a hard launch, And when the kids announce a relationship, it's a hard launch.
Right.
I think they've got to kind of hard launch a little bit on that if they do it, and then they've got to decide what do you do in this era where everyone's a prospective free agent at the end of the season. What do you do about a sitting head coach who is in your building, who you believe has agreed to terms to be somebody else's head coach? And both LSU and Florida are on Ole Miss's schedule next year.
So just to clarify, there's some particulars I want to ask, but just to clarify that point, Stuart Mandel's report, I know you said that you all had mentioned it at your site and on your podcast. Do you believe that Lane Kiffin would coach the report that he would not be allowed, or he needs to give them an answer by the Egg Bowl? So what does that mean, Neal, that they wouldn't allow him to coach the Egg Bowl?
I'm not really sure about the Egg Bowl. The part that I feel very confident about is that if he has not agreed to some sort of an extension at Ole Miss, he's not going to coach in the playoffs.
Okay.
I don't know about the Egg Bowl. It's a little early for that. And let me be clear. As of this morning, and maybe something has changed, but as of this morning, I feel very confident in saying Lane Kiffin had not made a decision and was not very close to a decision. I said last week that I thought Lane Kiffin was torn, Matt, and I do believe Lane Kiffin is torn. And here's where that tear is. He's been at Ole Miss for 6 years. They are the first year was the COVID year. Since then, starting in 2021, if they beat Mississippi State on Black Friday, that's 50 wins in 5 years. I'll let you do the research on how many other SEC teams have pulled that off. I'll give you a hint. It's two.
Yeah.
And had this current format been the format, this would be their third playoff appearance in 5 years. He's done a phenomenal job It was a very bad job when he got it. It's a really good job now. They'll pay him whatever he wants for the most part. They're giving him whatever he wants, but it's been hard. He's always been a guy who talks about blue blood jobs and that kind of thing. And here we are with what I believe, and you can feel free to correct me. People are going to dance around the word offer, but let's be real. If Lane Kiffin told LSU today, "I want your job," he'd get it.
Absolutely.
If he told LSU, Florida today, "I want your job," he'd get it. Obviously, Ole Miss wants to keep him. So he's in this weird spot where you've got to make a decision, and everything, I think, tells him to make a long-term decision. I don't know what that decision would be, but a long-term decision. And yet, if that decision is not Ole Miss, here's this team that he led to the playoffs, and he doesn't get to coach that playoff, which it would be brutally disappointing for him. And let's be real, here's a guy who has spent a lot of time both genuinely, organically, and also, he's been orchestrated, rebuilding his image. And I'm not sure how he would be viewed nationally. Now, I don't know that matters. If he got the LSU job, LSU people are going to love him. If he gets the Florida job, same thing. Mm-hmm. But nationally, he's going to get beat up if he walks away from a playoff team that, has a real chance to advance in the playoffs. This is not the North Texas coach going, "Yeah, I got the job offer at Missouri, I'm going." This is the Ole Miss coach potentially walking away to another SEC team that he just beat this year.
Yeah,
he beat LSU, he beat Florida. It's a weird look, and I think I told you this. I'm not Dan Wilkins' biggest fan, but he wrote a column last week. I'll give credit where it's due. The NCAA calendar, college football has gone to a professional model, and they're stuck with an amateur calendar. And at some point, people are going to have to fix this. This is not a good look for the sport either.
Yeah. There's no question about that. We were talking about that a little last hour, Neal. Just I don't know how you do that with the fact that they still have class and school and all that stuff, but that's another convo for a different day. Neal McCready's with us. Rebels 247. What a great time to go find his site if you're not familiar with it yet, and the podcast as well. Before I go any further in the particulars, what is the mood like in and around Oxford in this program?
I think there's two things. One, there's frustration, right? This team, this fan base is. They've done everything that they've been asked. They've raised tons of NIL. They've supported. It was a massive crowd the other night. The environment was fantastic. And, they loved it. They love this guy. They support the program and all that stuff. And here they are, 10-1. They won at Oklahoma. They beat LSU at home. They beat Tulane. The one loss is a one-score loss at Georgia. In a game where they led in the fourth quarter, and Kewan Lacey's had a phenomenal year, and Trey'Dez Chambliss is one of the best stories in the sport. And, all of the oxygen is sucked out of the room by this, right? And, and I think anybody who doesn't have empathy for how that fan base feels right now isn't being honest. If this were happening to your fan base, whoever your fan base is, you'd be kind of sick, right? This is not the way it's supposed to feel. It should feel jubilant, and right now, and they've really not had any opportunity to sort of really enjoy what's happening. And then I think there's frustration, like what does he want? If they feel like they've given him everything and it's not enough, and he made a comment the other night, and I think he meant it in jest. It fell flat. He was asked about the crowd. Was this a blue blood crowd? Lane talks about blue bloods here lately a lot, which I think should have raised people's antenna. It certainly raised mine. And his answer was, yeah, it was tonight, but were you here last week? Referring to the game against the Citadel. And people were like, oh, my God, really? And it just, it really irritated people. And, Lane's taking some heat. Whether it's justified or not is probably it's a subjective thing for sort of trolling his own fan base. I think if you followed him on social media on Friday and Saturday, you thought he was hinting at staying. There were some rumors, not his fault that they were, but there were, that an announcement was coming one way or the other, perhaps as early as Saturday, and obviously no announcement came. So long-winded answer, Matt, but in a word, it's probably frustration. And you shouldn't be frustrated when your team is 10-1, a double-digit favorite in a rivalry game coming up on Black Friday with a playoff berth basically cinched. You should not be feeling frustrated. You should be feeling excited.
Neal, do you think today's news, Lane Kiffin visiting Baton Rouge, the report of we'll just use the term ultimatum, do you think this expedites Lane Kiffin's decision, so as to say it comes before the Egg Bowl?
My sourcing kind of leans that way. My common sense says yeah, right? I mean, at some point, if you're Ole Miss, you need an answer. You just need an answer. I mean, I don't know that you can drag this another week. This becomes just this all-encompassing thing. Does it become a distraction inside your building? You've got coaches that probably they're going home to wives and children going, where are we going to be next year? Are we going to still be here? This becomes a thing. You're trying to raise NIL money. The portal opens here soon. You're trying to figure out, hey, if he's leaving, who are we hiring in the same market as, Auburn is down the road on a coach, and Virginia Tech just hired a coach, and Penn State's hiring a coach, and LSU and Florida and Arkansas. And, you got to get moving. You got to be real. And so, yeah, I would think that, it's the fact that anybody who goes, hey, there's nothing to this. Well, there was a lot of that last week, people spinning it. And you're like, come on. Ooh. And then on Sunday, they visit Gainesville, and today they've got family, touring Baton Rouge. And does that mean that he's taking those jobs? No. Does it mean that he's seriously considering those opportunities? Absolutely. So, yeah, it's going to force this to come to a head, I think. Now, I don't have that ironed down as a reporter where I could just go, yes, this is going to happen in the next 2-3 days or whatnot. But common sense would tell you that Ole Miss doesn't want this stretching into next week. They've got to make a move, and they've got to get ready for that move. And, it's a big game next Friday. They want to win it. It's a rivalry game. Obviously, if they win it, at worst, they're hosting a playoff game. There's money involved in that. Yeah, they can't afford a bunch of distractions, and and these players deserve an opportunity to play distraction free if possible.
All right, last thing for you. If Lane Kiffin does decide to leave, how would you weigh the decision between LSU and Florida?
I don't really know. I'll give you my gut feeling just from kind of talking to some people. I think family would probably lean Florida a little bit because it's more familiar. He's a water person. He would have much faster access to, the Gulf and
sure.
the Atlantic and that kind of thing. I believe, and this is pretty sourced, I believe that the people around him, the business people, the football people, would tell him, hey, if you're going to do this, if you're going to leave Ole Miss right before a playoff run and take the heat that you're taking, you should take the LSU job. It's a better football job. And look, this is just my opinion. You didn't ask for it. If he leaves for Florida, I don't understand it. I don't think you're leaving for that great of a job. In fact, I think you're leaving for a train wreck of a job where the only two people that have really won are people who won everywhere. No offense to Les Miles or to Ed Orgeron. I don't think anyone would ever put them in the same caliber of coach as Urban Meyer and Steve Spurrier. They won national titles at LSU. They put together incredibly talented rosters at LSU. I don't know that you can say the same for Florida. Florida in the last 5 years has won, I think, if I'm doing my math right, 29 games. Something's up at Florida, and you can sell Steve Spurrier and the Swamp and all that stuff. Man, that was a long time ago. This is a new era, and Florida does not appear to have any clue as to how to manage this era. Kiffin does, but how much of the credit is Kiffin's? How much of the credit is Ole Miss's? I think people make a mistake and I think Lane's terrific, man. He's a great coach, brilliant coach, done a great, phenomenal job at Ole Miss. But I do think if you're doing the thing at Ole Miss, you have to also point out that from the first moment of NIL, with Walker Jones, their collective guy, Keith Carter, the AD, Glenn Boyce, the chancellor. They have marched in total lockstep. He has had so much synergy here, and I think that's part of the equation as well. So, wherever he decides to go, he has really benefited from synergy here if he decides to go. And I think that's something that he's got to weigh. And I don't know the answer on who has more program synergy, LSU or Florida. I would guess LSU, and I would guess LSU could put it together much faster than Florida could. But look, I'm not an expert on either of those programs. I'm not smart enough to know the ins and outs of every program.
Well, it's great insight. At Neal McCready, if you want to go give him a follow, Rebels 247, and of course the podcast as well. I mean, it's like I said, if you're an LSU fan, it's a pretty good time to familiarize yourself with what Neal's doing if you haven't already. Okay, man, I know it's a busy time. Thank you for squeezing us in.
Yeah, buddy. Always good to talk to you. Hope you're well.
You as well. Thanks, man. We'll see you. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.